to On the Bubble Podcast, episode 144. I'm your host, Basa J. Wade, and he's my co-host, Yuki Lee Bender. Today, we're going to be doing our Omens of the Third Age pre-release primer. So we're going to be talking about all the heroes and basically everything you need to know to do well at your Omens pre-release. Yuki, you just came back from Prague. How was Prague, and how did the event go for you?
Yeah, Prague was nice. I didn't spend much time there because I was there for the Hunted just last February. It was quite different though this time of year. And in February it was like snowy and cold and a bit desolate. And in the spring it's like spring/summer. It's actually like really green and quite pretty. But there was also a lot of pollen everywhere, so my allergies were going kind of crazy. And I got in like Thursday evening, left Monday morning, and the world premieres on the Friday. So I didn't do a whole lot in Prague itself, but I still had a lot of fun and I really enjoyed the format. I think in the future, if I'm doing overseas trips, I'll probably try to spend a little bit more time though, because the jet lag was definitely a little bit challenging. I kind of like did 2 sealed pools, did 1 round of my 3rd sealed pool, and just like wanted to eat and go to sleep and didn't really have time to practice more. And then after I finished day 1, I was pretty much just like crashing and didn't have energy to do a draft. So definitely felt a little bit underprepared, especially on my understanding of Ziggy. I kind of learned more by drafting Ziggy in day 2, but that didn't go very well. And then I played more Ziggy in other drafts like after that, and I learned more. But yeah, I think had I had a little more time to prep, maybe could have done a little better. That being said, I went 10-4 overall, which put me 34th. 32nd is cash, so just missed.
Yeah, and you were at the bottom of the X4s too, right? Like, I think most X4s top 32, and there was like 4 or 5 of them that didn't.
Yeah. So I finished day 1 X2 on Acilio. I think Acilio was really good. I think my sealed pool was quite weak. I probably had the weakest sealed pool for the calling out of all 4 sealed pools that I opened, so a bit unfortunate. But still managed to day 2. And then in my day 2 draft, I drafted Ziggy. In the first draft, I thought my deck was pretty solid, but I went 1-2. I lost to the person who 3-0'd the pod. And then I lost to a very, very, very good Acilio deck. I got completely blown out. He played into like a very strong Ziggy deck that was like particularly strong into that matchup and lost to him. But this Acilio had both a very good deck and his hands lined up like fantastic into me. Turn 0, he did the like 1-for-4 arcane, and if it deals damage, you can tap to get go again. And I just didn't have prevention to stop it, so he got go again and then played another 4, and I started the game at like 12.
Yeah, the classic Acilio, the classic wizard playstyle in draft, right?
Yeah, and then later he didn't have very many attacks, but he attacked me for 7 twice, and both times he attacked me for 7, I drew all my prevention cards that didn't really block. So yeah, that game was kind of cursed. And that was like a tough loss after I'd already gotten a loss. And then that put me in X4 at the end of the first draft, which is not ideal. But then I 3-0'd my second draft on Aurora.
Into a 34th place finish.
Yep. I was like pretty sure, even going into the draft, I'm like, I don't really think I can make it. But it's like, just win, see what happens. And also it's like, okay, I can drop. What am I going to do if I'm drop? I'm going to go do on-demand drafts. Well, I may as well just draft for free in the not the Pro Tour, in the World Premiere calling, and, get like probably higher quality games than your average on-demand, because there are people who day 2 the calling.
Yeah, fair enough.
No reason to not play.
Do we know how many people was at this calling?
Heard it was around like 630-ish, so very big calling.
Okay, yeah, that is really, really big. For a limited, I guess it is the world premiere, so like, a lot of people came out to it.
Yeah, usually the world premiere callings are pretty huge for limited, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So like overall, 34th is actually like pretty solid finish for that size of tournament. But yeah, just outside of cash, which is tough.
I kind of wish that they like expand the pricing just a little bit if it like goes over a certain number. For like example, there's like 500 people or more, like, pays up to top 64 instead. So like 10% of people cash, or like, get some points or something.
Even like top 48 or something would make a big difference. Because then I think all the X4s would cash, or almost all of them. Because X4 in a 14 round event is still like, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Like, yeah, I think X4 only went down to like 36. I didn't go to 40th for sure.
So a little unfortunate, but yeah, I had a ton of fun. I got back Monday. We're recording Tuesday. I have no idea what time it is. Like I know what time it is because I'm looking at the clock, but like I like woke up and I'm like it could be like 6 a.m. or 5 p.m. or anywhere in between. I would have no clue.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. And I guess one last question to ask you before we get into the nitty-gritty is did you enjoy the format? Like how is Omens sealed so far in your opinion?
I think the format's great. This is probably the best sealed format that we've had in any Flesh and Blood set. I think it just feels incredibly balanced. The data also shows that. We'll talk about that in a second. But I think all of the heroes are really good. I think you get rewarded for selecting the right hero for your pool. We'll talk a little bit about that. I think getting it right is like a pretty big deal in this format. And I think it's like really intricate with a lot of very good decision making. Draft also seems very cool. I'm a little bit less certain how balanced draft is, weirdly, because like Ziggy, I think Ziggy's the one that comes together the least in sealed and is the most prone to being like overly contested in draft. And if you have like a four, like I was doing a side event draft and I had like a four Ziggy pod and it was like kind of suffering. So yeah, I think weirdly I'm not sure. It's like way too early to say, but I think the sealed is like incredible and the draft seems solid, but maybe like slightly less balanced than the sealed format.
Okay, okay. Well, the drafting we will start doing once the set comes out, and hopefully that we can get more insight on the draft portion. But pre-release is a draft, so you know what? Everyone gets to play sealed for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And draft is self-correcting, so if there is a hero that's weaker or a hero that's stronger, people will tend to draft those hero more or less, and then that will tend to like even out the power level a little bit. So I think that I suspect that draft will still be really good. I think there's like some very interesting things in draft that I'm only starting to learn. Like I think understanding how to use the bad cards and how to use some of the lightning cards is really interesting in this set. It feels like things are super conditional. We'll talk about that even in our primer, but basically like what you want in your deck really depends on the other cards in your deck, and that's like yeah, I think it's pretty interesting.
That typically is a good sign of a good draft format, though.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like I think most cards like have a niche, and understanding like what that niche is like really important.
I guess before we talk about some of the sealed win rates, do you want to do a Patreon shout out and then we'll continue from there?
Yeah. So, quick Patreon shout out. Thank you to everyone who gives back to the show. We couldn't be doing what we're doing without you, and we really appreciate all your support. As we're heading into Omens, we'll be continuing with limited content, and you can expect CC content on. I imagine the new heroes is what I'm going to be focusing on. I'm looking at the new Acilio first, and we'll see from there. I also have some interest in old Acilio, maybe Aurora, maybe other decks. Who knows? But yeah, if you're interested in that content or just supporting the show and giving back a little bit, you can check us out at patreon.com/onthebobble. The holiday bobble and crack bobble tiers give a little bit back to the show just to help us out. And then the titanium bobble gives you access to the content that gets released, and above that is a monthly coaching session. So depending on what you're interested in, you can check that out there. But also, if you're somebody who tunes in, listens to the show, and isn't able to give back, we also really appreciate you. And a whole bunch of people this weekend came up, said hi, mentioned appreciating the podcast. Quite a few of them actually asked if you were there, Jay, and I had to tell them no, you couldn't make it. Um, but yeah,
Prague is a little bit too far, and unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know which one it is yet. I actually did get a job just recently. I just started training last week. So, you know what? Fingers crossed. Hopefully that goes well. And that means that I couldn't go up to Prague this time.
yeah. Well, congratulations on the new job.
Thank you, thank you.
And yeah, and thank you to everyone who came up. It was really nice meeting people, saying hi. That always feels good because when we post it, we don't really see people interact with the show, and it's always nice to meet people in person. So that's always a highlight. And thank you for coming up and saying hi.
Okay, then let's move on and get into the nitty gritty. So I think I just wanted to start out by saying we have a little bit of data from the stream. They gave us the sealed win rate of the games played on day one. Obviously, there was a lot more Aurora than everyone else, but all three heroes had very close to a 50% win rate. So Aurora at 50%, Acilia at 49%, and Ziggy at 48%. And I'm assuming the draws are what's the last missing 3% for these win rates. But this means that no one was over 50% this time. That's kind of surprising, or that is like an indication of a pretty balanced format in terms of like the hero representation.
Yeah, I think often there's been a hero that's like, oh, this is the sealed, the best deck in sealed, and maybe if you have a really good pool, you can play another one, but like majority of the time, like in Uprising, you're going to be Fi most of the time, or in Rosetta, like you're probably Florian or Verdance. We often have this, and I think there's like a bit of this where I think, in terms of numbers, Aurora had 1,700 games, Acilio had 1,100 games, and Ziggy had 856 games. So we see Aurora being the one that comes together the most often, and then Acilio in the middle and Ziggy the least. This matched my experience with the sealed pools. It's the hardest to get a Ziggy sealed pool. But when you do get a good Ziggy pool or a good Acilio pool, they feel very strong, and Aurora also feels really strong. They're all good, and you can kind of play all of them. It really, I think, depends. This is probably why it feels like picking your hero is so important, because they're all good, and just understanding what your card pool supports is kind of like the bigger weight rather than picking the stronger hero or whatever.
Okay. So are you saying maybe this format is not a format where you get to be like, oh, I'm going to try this hero this time? You kind of have to play the hero that matches your pool?
I think so. I think you have some pools that can play two heroes, usually not three, though, in my experience. And sometimes only one that you can really like reasonably play. If you're like super set on playing a hero, you don't get to play many pre-releases. You could try playing the hero that you like the most. But for example, my when I was laying out my calling sealed pool, I didn't actually think my Acilio deck was like great. It had some good cards, it was missing some pieces. But if I wanted to play Ziggy, I had like 5 reds. And if I wanted to play Aurora, I had a little bit more, but counting my lightning cards and my the lightning cards I was happy to play and my Aurora cards, I had like 10 reds, which is not really where you want to be for an aggro deck. So, there's like some good yellows and stuff, but like basically I just didn't have enough good threats. That's not to say that you're going to get like 20 reds or whatever. Like there's yellows that are good too, but you kind of need the threat density in your deck to really get there. And I think a big difference is that like there's not very many lightning cards that are just good on their own. They're kind of good in certain heroes or with certain other supporting cards. There's not many like I'll put it this way: the past, I don't even know how many sets, like so many sets you can like draft 3-for-7s, right? Or you'll have like some 3-for-7s in your seal pool, and you play the 3-for-7s, and that's the heuristic. The only 3-for-7 that isn't a class card is a rare in this set. It's like a rare lightning card that on hit you put an instant to the bottom of your graveyard, and that card's great. But like you're not gonna get it all the time. I guess like Meteoric Rise and Voltic Impact, which make a lightning flow on hit, and you can pump them. There's like a 1 cost and a 2 cost, and you can pump them twice. Those are kind of also 3-for-7s, but those are also rares. So like this idea of like just playing 3-for-7s doesn't translate to this format at all. And even some stuff like Heaven's Claw, classic Tales of Aria card, 1-for-5, 3-block lightning card. If you don't have Go Again, you're doing a 2-card 5. So you kind of, there's not really like just like strong generics. You kind of need generics that work with the other cards that you have available to you. And I think because of that, selecting the right deck and understanding like what synergies you have between your cards is really important.
That makes sense. I think one thing I wanted to add would be, or I guess ask you, would be none of the weapons are strong enough on their own, right? I think we've seen in the past, maybe let's say Rosetta, like Florian had the best weapon, and the weapon kind of carries you. There's nobody in this hero, or sorry, there's nobody in this set that has like a strong weapon that can just straight up carry all your games in this set, right? So all of your main deck cards are going to be more important than some of the past sets.
Yeah, I think a way to think of this is all of your weapons require something. Like Acilio needs an instant to go to the graveyard to be able to amp, and then you need an arcane damage to be able to amp, like apply the amp to. Aurora needs a lightning attack on the combat chain to activate it, and then it's a zero cost one that on hit deals an arcane. And then Ziggy is a 1 for 2 arcane, which is fantastic, but you need to have a aura with a hollow counter enter under your control that turn, which basically means you need like 2 resources for Ziggy's hero ability plus an aura to flicker, and then you get to do 2 arcane, which is like good, but it's conditional. So stalemates are possible in this format. I think it is most common to happen between like Acilio in the like Acilio matchup and maybe Ziggy matchups. Aurora tends to not go there because the weapon kind of grinds out value. But yeah, Acilio and Ziggy can technically stalemate where you just like run out of cards that actually deal damage. But I don't think this happens very often. And it didn't actually happen in any of my games, and I just saw it happen I think once in some like practice games back at the Airbnb after. There's like a matchup where it happened. But even in the practice game, the reflection was if the play was a little bit more optimal, then it probably wouldn't have been a draw. There was like some lost deck damage, basically. Like there could have been some more Ziggy activations that didn't get resolved, and then yeah, that's like just damage that you're missing.
Okay, okay. So I mean, that might actually just reflect the missing win percentage on these heroes from earlier, right? Like Ziggy at 48% and Leslie at 49% might just be
Yeah.
those draws that you are talking about now.
Yeah, I think they're also a little more likely to go to time, both those heroes. They just, Aurora's like the most aggressive of the bunch, so you're the least likely to go to time. Ziggy plays long games, and Basilio also kind of plays long games. Yeah, there's a lot of prevention effects in sealed that you'll open prevention effects and you'll be able to board them in. So in sealed, Acilio tends to play long games. In draft, Acilio is a little bit quicker because you don't get to draft as many prevention effects generally.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, then to start talking about the sealed format, we really do need to talk about the macro of the format, which is going to be Omens of the Arcana. How impactful do you think Omens of Arcana is? Or I guess before we do that, let's read Omens of Arcana together. Omens of Arcana says each hero starts the game with a Lightning Flow token, and then Lightning Flow tokens get Spell Void 1, which means you may destroy a Lightning Flow card to prevent 1 arcane from your opponent. Did you enjoy the Omens of Arcana being played in this limited format?
Yeah, I think this set kind of doesn't make sense without Omens of Arcana. Starting with a lightning flow means your hero abilities are just kind of always active, which is a really big deal. It means like you always have access to go again on your starting turn if you want it as Aurora. You can even Aurora turn 0. Acilio can like turn on his Acilio's cards have a keyword called Starfall, where basically the card gets a bonus effect if an instant has gone to your graveyard that turn. So one of the reasons to activate Acilio to discard an instant, get a ponder token, and and then you can play that instant is to turn on these Starfall effects and also turn on Volzar, which also cares about an instant going to the graveyard. So yeah, it just like lets you tap into these hero abilities right away, or for Ziggy, you use your hollow counter to there's certain cards that get better with hollow counters, and typically those cards are costed in a way where you need the hollow counter for it to be good, and if you don't have the hollow counter, it's like this is really bad.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Also, the spell void is huge. All the heroes do arcane damage. Arcane damage is somewhat hard to interact with, and having the ability to have spell void to deal with it basically just means you have a whole bunch of flexibility in terms of how you deal with arcane damage. And there's this really interesting tension between managing your hero ability, but also every time you use your hero ability, it's kind of costing you 1 life because that lightning flow could be used for spell void instead. So I think it creates a little bit of like, you want to make sure that using your hero ability is really worth it. Because I think there's some spots where you can activate your hero ability, but because you lose the lightning flow, it's like not always as great as it seems.
So it might just be like a trap to activate your hero ability, even if you can, and it might generate 1 value, but is 1 value on offense better than 1 value on defense?
Yeah, you're usually looking for more than one. You're basically always looking for more than 1 value, and often these are worth more than 1 value. But even if you get like 2 value, you still have to pay resources into it. You lose the lightning flow. So yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, I thought that this macro was like very format defining, and yeah, the spell void matters a lot. One thing that I will say is like a little bit funny coming from some of the other macros is this one. Like I noticed like a lot of people just like wouldn't even put it on the board because you can just kind of play like, oh yeah, they all have spell void one. Like you don't like in high seas, like you put like dice to represent the treasure tokens on the macro, and then you like took them off when you did damage. Or with Rosetta, you like paid into the macro to prevent things, so it mattered if it was on board or not on board. But this one is just sort of like a passive effect. So like some people are just like shortcutting. Like I start with a lightning flow, and lightning flows have spell void. So I don't know. It was just interesting. I was sort of like this macro feels like it doesn't feel like a thing that's on the board so much as just like an extra effect on your lightning flows.
Okay, so if it kind of probably feels more like I guess that's what it's supposed to be, right? Like they're supposed to be like a format changing card, or like to at least make the format playable or more interesting.
Yeah.
And then it disappears, but I guess you physically don't interact with this macro this time around.
Yeah, it's almost just like a passive like rules change where it's just like you start with a lightning flow, your lightning flows have spell void. It feels like almost like extra rules rather than like a card on the board, but it's still very interesting. I think this format would not. I mean, it's if as you play it, you'll see that it's very clearly designed with lightning flows being part of it as spell void, and it wouldn't make sense at all without this additional text.
Okay, I have a couple more questions about this. How easy was it to make new lightning flow tokens? Like, other than the obvious, the omens of Arcana lightning flow you get, like, did people have 2, 3, 4, 5 lightning flow tokens on the board, or was it like mainly you just got your one, you used it up, and that was it?
Most decks at least make a few. I think that looking for lightning flow generation is a little important, and especially against Acilio, you probably board in cards that make lightning flows because they're damage prevention, and it's like the only way you can block arcane damage, basically. Certain heroes or like certain cards are better at making lightning flows. I think like Acilio tends to make a lot of lightning flows because they have some cards that just like on hit Enion Surge, three arcane. If it deals damage, you can tap your hero, make a lightning flow, or lightning overload, which is a 1 for 4 and has Starfall, make a lightning flow. So like not even interactable. And also has some like instants that make lightning flows, for example. So I think like Acilio has some like relatively uninteractable ways to do it. Aurora also has some ways to make lightning flows. Some of them are on hits. Aurora feels like the easiest one to starve off of lightning flows. She also kind of like uses her hero ability the most aggressively to turn on Go Again and Quick Strike, which is the keyword that gives you a bonus if the attack has Go Again. And Ziggy, I think, is like the most conservative with using their lightning flows, but you still want some flow generation. So yeah, they all have some lightning flow generation, sometimes in the lightning cards and also in the class cards. The dualities they all have like a cycle of cards where you can pay one to discard them and deal one arcane and make a lightning flow, and those cards are just great in every hero. You have to play the one for your hero, but you basically play like all the colors of that card generally.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything else about lightning flows before we move on to maybe like the generic equipment for the set?
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is just that the way that you use lightning flows is going to vary depending on the matchup, and thinking about it is really important. Against Aurora, you often want to stop like the on damage effects from the arcane cards that ping. You can also use it to stop damage from like Scorpio Comet's Tail, but stopping those on hits is quite important, and figuring out when to do that matters a lot. Against Acilio, it is life, so you often want to be a little more conservative with your lightning flows so that you're able to block more and potentially can block some of there's like essentially on hit arcane effects in this set, so they usually require tapping the hero, but being able to save it to prevent some of those key on hits is really important. And then Ziggy, you kind of have the least opportunities to use your lightning flows to prevent damage, so you have to figure out when they do Aphrodite you, do you want to save the life now, or do you want to reserve it for your hero ability or do like one and save one for your hero ability, something like this. Ziggy also wants to protect their ward with lightning flows. So if you have like a ward 4, you don't want to die to like one arcane from like a duality or something. So you want to have lightning flows to like protect your wards as Ziggy. So I think that the way that each hero uses flows and manages it is quite different. And I think that it also changes depending on the hero you're playing against, which is like honestly really interesting. I really enjoyed the whole like macro perspective of how you use and manage your flows. And I think I saw games won and lost based on how people managed them.
Okay, that's a good sign of a very skill testing format. So I'm excited to try this out at the pre-releases. Then let's move on and talk about the equipment and what kind of equipments that we're looking for. And I assume that let's talk about this first. How important was having 4 equipments, and how often did people have 4 equipments? Yeah, let's start there. How important was having 4 equipments in this set?
Equipment. So equipment on their face in this set are a little bit weak because they all kind of cost something to use. There's no just like equipment that blocks or equipment that makes a resource. Most of them prevent damage and have some kind of cost associated with them. And then there's like a few other class equipment that have other effects. We'll talk about them. But even despite this, despite them being a little bit weak on a traditional like equipment, like if you're comparing it to like equipment from other sets, it just doesn't look that good. They're still really important though. And I think in sealed, I saw 3 to 4 equipment most frequently. If your pool is much better, you can play 3 equipment. I did lose to someone with 3 equipment. So it's definitely like you can win with 3 equipment. It's not the end of the world, but you want 3 to 4 equipment. And the class equipments are all in the glove slot. So typically you'll be deciding between like 3 or 4 equipment if you don't just have 4 for all of them. Yeah. So equipment's good, but maybe not the most important thing about your sealed pool decisions.
Okay, that makes sense. Like we had some sets before where if you just like had one less equipment, you were down 1 life for sure. And those formats sometimes did just come down to if you had 4 playable equipments in your class.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not so much the case for this one. Also, your equipment, how much equipment you have is largely dictated by just how much equipment you have because yeah, the classes are literally only the glove slots. So like if you don't have a boots, you just don't have a boots. It's not like you have a boots for one class and not another. The gloves is the only slot where that can be the case.
Okay, yeah, because everything else is a generic and or lightning.
Yeah.
Which equipment kind of standed out for you the most in the set?
They're kind of all good. I think the power level's a little flat, and I think you want a combination of them, and different classes want different ones. So there's the Astral Sanctuary equipment. These are 0 cost to activate, but you have to tap your hero, which does feel like a very real cost in this format. And you get to prevent the next 1 damage. This is great against Aurora for stopping Scorpio Comet Tail. You just basically get 2 value out of this if you block the weapon with it, but you do need to be untapped to use it. These are kind of like the easiest to slot in because they don't have a cost outside of tapping your hero. I think having 4 is like a little hard to use, but I think you can use like 2 to 3 of them pretty easily. 4 of them is like you might not really get good opportunities to use all 4 because you want to use your hero ability. There's a few effects that tap your hero in the format too that Aurora has that might prevent you from using it. So you probably don't want 4 of these, but 2 to 3 is good. And actually, I believe that the pre-release pack always comes with 4 of these. I forgot about this. The pre-release pack comes with 4 of these Astral Sanctuary equipments that you can always play. So you always have access to 4 equipment for pre-release. But if it's like a sealed calling, that won't be the case.
Oh, okay. So that's good to know. I kind of forgot about there was a pre-release pack in this event as well.
There's class equipment. They're all gloves. The class equipment are fine. We'll talk about them when we get to the classes, but I don't think that they're actually a huge bump over just defensive equipment. The big exception is Aurora. I think Aurora's arms are quite good and are like a little bit of a reason to be Aurora. I think Ziggy and Basilio's arms are like just okay. There's also a cycle of 2 cost equipments that come in they basically are 2 cost, prevent the next 1 damage that's dealt, and if you prevent a damage this way, you get an effect. The headpiece makes a ponder token, the chest piece makes a lightning flow, and the boots make an embodiment of lightning. These are all quite powerful, but 2 cost is a lot. So I think you typically only want 1 of these, maybe you can get away with two. I think it's usually one. I think the chess piece for the lightning flow actually just feels like it might be the best of the bunch, and it might be the best chess piece in general for the format because you basically pay two for two value, one prevention plus a lightning flow, and lightning flows are always worth at least one. We talked about that. The boots are really good for Ziggy and for Aurora because Go Again is great. Acelia, though, mostly wants to do spells, so the Go Again is not so good there. And the Ponder is like good, but not as good as you would think it is. It's like somehow much worse than you would think.
I feel like in limited, Ponder is typically significantly worse because you just have to play some blues, you have to play some yellows, and then like it's not like constructed where every card you draw is typically good in your arsenal, right?
Yeah, I think the other reason that the Ponder is weaker than usual is because often these two cost equipments you're using in one of two places. Turn 0, if they deal damage to you, you can kind of cash these in, and the two cost is a little bit clunky. So like starting the game with an extra flow, preventing an arcane damage that they dealt to you is just like pretty good value, and you should basically always snap that off. And same thing for the embodiment on the boots. If you can like use the embodiment on your next turn, that's just like fantastic. Whereas the ponder is like you might not be able to use the ponder right away if you just crack it immediately. You might not have 4 cards that fully convert. The other most common place that you use these two cost equipment are when you can't convert your hand because maybe they're not attacking you for enough, maybe they're just doing arcane damage so you don't get a block. And so then it's like, okay, I'll use my two cost equipments. And if you can't convert your hand, you might not be able to make use of the ponder anyways. So there's like a lot of tension there. Because if you can just block for 3, you'd rather block for 3. Why would you pitch a card? Even block for 2 is better than pitching a card into one of these and using up your equipment, right? So it's like always if it's always like for a reason. It's usually because you can't convert, and because of that, the ponder is like it can come up, but it's more situational than the other ones.
There is another one cost equipment, right, that you can pair with these.
Yeah. So these are the Seekers equipment. We've seen these before in, I want to say, Outsiders. They are Prevent 1 and Opt 1. I think, like you said, 2 cost plus a Seekers is very good. You can fill it in with a blue. Seekers are also really good in Acilio because Acilio's hero ability ponders and costs 1. So you can. I think I'm often looking to use his hero ability when I can also use a Seeker's equipment and then like help make sure that the ponder is good. So Seekers, like I think like 3 Seekers and the flow chest piece would be like my ideal for Acilio probably, with like the gloves for the fatigue matchups, and then maybe some 0 costs for the Aurora matchup as well. So you can kind of like sideboard equipments depending on the matchup. But yeah, the Seekers are quite good. They pair with the 2 costs. There's also 1 cost effects that just like are on cards that naturally pair with the 2 cost equipment, like the dualities that we talked about, discard 1 arcane, make a flow. These cards are great, and they can help fill in with your 2 cost equipment and help you convert your hand even more. There's also I forget what the card's called, but there's a cycle of cards that prevents 1, and if you prevent a damage this way, you make a lightning flow. Also, that card's really good to be aware of. These equipment and the card is really good to be aware of because sometimes pinging your opponent for only 1 on the first turn isn't always good because like they might have this card, or even like 2, because they might like have this card to discard, prevent 1, make a lightning flow, and they kind of get that for free. Or if you just like do 1 arcane and they get to use like their chest piece to get like a lightning flow, it's just kind of like free value.
Are you talking about Glide Through Starlight, the attack action card that attacks for 5, blocks for 2? Instant, you pay 1, you discard it, and you prevent 1 damage, and if you do, you make a lightning flow?
Yes, this card. Yep.
Okay.
Can be like a bit of a turn 0 blowout. So turn 0 is really interesting. Usually just pass or do something very big, or like play something on your turn that doesn't deal damage are typically the best. Doing something like 1 arcane is often a little bit weak.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess, yeah, in other formats, you just like wanted to shoot off any type of arcane damage. But yeah, if you get blown out, if you do it in this format, yeah, you know why.
The equipment, the 2 cost equipments are big ones to look out for on turn 0 because they're like not always the easiest to convert. So yeah, I might think twice about just doing 1 arcane if they have one of those. If they don't, it's like a little bit better. eating through their arcane can sometimes be good. But yeah, just be aware that you can get blown out for presenting damage turn 0.
Okay, then let's move on and let's talk about how you choose which hero you want to play in your sealed pool then. What was the heuristic or what did you use? Sorry. What were you basing which hero you were playing for this event or for any of your sealed pools?
It is largely to do with how many reds that are strong in that hero that you have. If you do not have enough good reds that you're happy to play in that hero, then you probably don't want to be that hero. So this would be like most of the class reds are pretty solid. So I think you can basically play all of them. I don't know if there's any class reds that are like, oh, this is bad. They're actually like all, some of them are better than others, but they're all good.
Mm.
Pretty much. But you want a density of them. And then on top of that, you can look at the lightning cards, but the lightning cards are a little more situational. We'll talk about the lightning cards next. So basically just think about like which heroes does it work in, which heroes is it good with, and you can include those in like red cards that you're happy to play with. But yeah, look at how many reds you have, because sometimes your pool just doesn't have that many reds. The last thing would be like make sure you can use their hero ability. So for Aurora, this is pretty easy. Basically, Aurora just wants like go again sources, so either lightning flows or things that give go again. So you can use like the quick strike cards. Acilio wants to do lots of arcane damage, but also have some instants to discard to make ponders and turn on Starfall. If you don't have premium instants, then you also probably don't want to be Acilio. And then for Ziggy, you want to have some of the auras that you can flicker and activate Aphrodite on, and ideally these are like some of the red auras. So yeah, that's kind of what to look for. Make sure you can use a hero ability. Make sure you have a good density of reds. If you lay out an Aurora deck and you have like 8 reds, unless you have a bunch of the like yellow rares that are very good, the yellow rare quick strike cards, unless you have like a ton of those, you probably don't want to be Aurora.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, then which generics are you looking for? Which kinds of like generics kind of work together in this set?
The most standalone cards are the red rare attacks. There's Visionary of Orbits, which is a 3 for 7 on hit, put an instant at the bottom of your graveyard. We talked about this one, just 3 for 7's really premium. There's the Flowing Storm Strike, Meteoric Rise, and Voltic Impact cycle. They all make a lightning flow on hint and can be pumped for 1 resource at instant speed twice. And they cost, there's a 0 for 4, 1 for 5, 2 for 6. So you can play them and then increase their power up to 2 times if you want to play into them. These are also pretty universally good in most heroes. They function as like good small turn plays, like where you just play a 2 for 6 or play a 3 for 7 effectively on them with an on hit. Or you can give them go again and do other things with them. So these are kind of good in like all of the heroes.
Yeah, that sounds disgusting though. Giving one of these go again and just like your opponent looking at their hand, but like, I don't know if this is gonna be a 1 for 5 or 2 for 6 or a 3 for 7. At least for like the 1 cost variant, you're just like, wow, like that's disgusting. If they have like 2 cards in their hand still.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, these are like super premium. They're all rares, and they're very very good. There's also Rift Breaker, which is a 2 for 6 on hit, destroy a lightning flow. Rift Breaker is actually really good. I was like a little low on this card. I think that red Rift Breaker is like premium, and yellow is like actually still pretty good. I don't love this at Acilio, but you could play it. It blocks 2, so, and it doesn't have a breakpoint, so it's kind of a little bit sad. But it's great in Ziggy because you can pair it with a 1 cost aura. We'll talk about Ziggy's play patterns later, but yeah, you can pair it with a 1 cost aura, which is great. And in Aurora, if you like start the turn with go again and you play a 1 cost quick strike into this, is really really strong. And often those 1 cost quick strikes have on hits too, so they might like stop the arcane, block a card, stop the breakpoint of 4, and then you hit them with a 2 for 6 on hit, destroy a flow, and it just feels brutal.
Okay, and you said earlier that like a lightning flow is typically worth 1 point. So if Riftbreaker breaks 1, it's essentially a 2 for 7, right?
Yeah, yeah. And if they were planning their turn and they wanted to use their hero ability and they like didn't, I don't know, they only have 1 lightning flow left or something, like you can just completely ruin their turn. So Riftbreaker's been like pretty impressive.
Okay, that's good to know. This is definitely one of those cards that does look underwhelming when you first read it.
The next category is cards that are good with instants. There is Flow Shard Elemental, 0 for 4, block 2, and you may discard a instant to give it go again and make a lightning flow. This is the type of card that we've seen in other sets that isn't usually good, but is actually pretty good in this set. I think mostly in Ziggy Basilio, although it can be playable if you have an Aurora deck with a few more instants. Yeah, having the option to make it into an act, like make any instant into an action point plus one value from the lightning flow and potentially more if you use your hero ability is actually just like really solid. So this card is like quite good. It's not as good as the ones above, but it's still like, if you have a deck with lots of instants, you would play this card.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. At least from reading a bunch of the commons and the rares, at least so far, it does seem like you are kind of limited on go again in this set, unless you play instants or like your Aurora and you give go again somehow.
Yeah. The next cards that are good with instants is Flittering Spike and Volatile Fluxer. Flittering Spike is a 1 for 4 that blocks for 3. It gets +2 if you played an instant on this chain link. And it also has on hit make a lightning flow. And Volatile Flexor's 0 attack go again that gets +3 if you played an instant this chain link. It has on hit make a lightning flow. These blocking 3 makes them a lot more flexible. Most of the lightning cards block 2. These block 3, so they're pretty safe includes. And 1 for 6 on hit flow is great, and 0 for 3 go again on hit flow is great. The hoop, of course, is that you need a good density of instants to play these in your deck. Flittering Spike is like a good, like even without go again, and if you can give Flittering Spike go again, it can be like really nasty because they don't know how much to block, and if they like block one card, hope to cover it with equipment, then you have the instant, they just can't block it. Yeah.
Okay, and just a rules thing with volatile flexors. This is a 0 power card, so if you deal 0, you do not hit. So you do need to make sure you pump this card. You don't get to just make a lightning flow by hitting your opponent for 0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. These cards are actually also pretty serviceable in yellow and blue. This might be like, the blue is a blue 3 block with a potential on hit, and it's like not bad. And the yellow is actually also just like pretty solid. I think them blocking 3 makes the yellows like actually very acceptable is basically what it is.
Okay, that makes sense. Just a question. The lightning typing doesn't matter in this set like in some of the other sets with fuse, right? None of the cards actually fuse in this set, which means like it being a lightning 3 block doesn't actually matter, right?
Yes, except for Aurora. Aurora cares about having lightning on the combat chain for Scorpio. And Aurora's gloves also care about a lightning or Runeblade card.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
Oh no, it's actually lightning, specifically lightning attack action card for the gloves. So Aurora cares about the typing, but there's also very few generic attacks in the set. So there's one generic attack. I guess if you count Majestics, there's more. There's one common / rare generic attack in the set. So it's like mostly not relevant, but technically it does matter.
okay, that is good to know, I guess. Is there any other generics that you want to talk about before we move on?
Yeah, I'll mention a couple. Storm Shard is a 1 cost +3 to your attack action, and you can pay 0. You can make it cost 1 less if you destroy a lightning flow to play it. This card is really good in Ziggy and Aurora and is like a bit of a power card. Like when I see Storm Shard, it makes me want to play those heroes a bit more. Acilio, despite it being an instant, I think you don't really want to play enough attacks to actually make this a good card, so I would avoid playing Storm Shard and Acilio. I played it for a while and then I started cutting it and it felt way better. And it's very good with Flittering Spike and Volatile Flexor. If your 0 attack becomes a 6 go again on hit make a flow, it's really nasty. And you can kind of like afford to spend the lightning flow because you get the lightning flow on hit. So the Storm Shard with those cards is like a bit of a combo.
Just a question. Was there anything else that in the set that pumps it? Like this is your lightning press of the set, right? So if you're at 3, like Storm Shard could just kill you out of nowhere. And Storm Shard is a common, so basically everyone will have access to 1 probably. Was there any other like combat trick like Storm Shard in this set other than this card?
This is the main one. There's a blue rare called Flow Through that gives +1 on hit, make a lightning flow. It's an instant that does combo quite well with these, although the breakpoint, making it like a 4 or a 7, depending on Flittering Spike or Volatile Flexor, is potentially like a little less good because the equipment tends to block 1 as an instant. So they can often cover it, but it's still pretty strong. And I guess there is live wire press. This is the one cost instant that target lightning attack gets when this hits a hero, deal 4 damage to them. I don't love this card in general, but yeah, if they like attack you with just a flowing storm strike and they have like one card in arsenal or something, it could be a live wire press and you could just take 10 damage if you don't block it. So it's a good one to be aware of.
Okay, okay. Did anyone get you this weekend with Livewire Press? Because I know you were complaining about this card last week.
Somebody, I was like sitting there calculating blocks in the exact scenario I was in the exact scenario I was talking about. And I was like, I was playing around the +3, but I wasn't playing around Livewire Press. It didn't end up mattering. I still got the game, but it did catch me off guard. And it did make the end game a little bit sketchier because it was like 1 more damage than I was really prepared to deal with, which I think it made me like pitch an extra card I didn't want to pitch or something like this.
Okay, okay. So it actually did come up. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I would necessarily play this card, but you can scam people with it. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, okay. Then let's talk about some of the other cards. Electrolyze. This is like a generic 1 for 4 go again, right? Has to be good.
It's like good in every deck. I'm not sure you want more than one. It can be really awkward. The no block on it is super punishing, and the one cost no block is very, very punishing. If you draw it with like you have like a 3 for 7 in this, you just like get stuck in an awkward spot. You can also often arsenal this, but if your arsenal's full, it's like very, very awkward. I've had this come up. If you draw all reds, this card's also kind of a disaster. So the card's good. I don't think I want more than one of them, but all the heroes could play it. And the first copy is like pretty good.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, if you draw like 2 of these in a hand with like no blues, you're suffering that turn.
Yeah, you're basically like locked into doing like a 4 card 8 if you can't arsenal.
At best.
Yeah, you like pitch 2 reds, play 2 of these. It's not good. Or you do, yeah, you get locked into playing like a 1 card 4 with this on like all red hands. It's yeah, what is bad is really bad.
Okay, okay. But the first one's really good.
Yeah. Star World Warning is an instant that I like looking for. It is just pay 1, make 2 lightning flows. This is like actively good in Ziggy and Astilio. I think it's just okay in Aurora because you have like cards that give go again, so you're a little bit less reliant on lightning flows specifically, but you probably still sideboard it in against Astilio as arcane prevention. So this is always one to look out for, and I would just main deck it in Astilio and Ziggy. Probably just 1 copy though. You don't need more than 1.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Is there any generic sideboarding cards that we should be at least thinking about?
Basically anything that allows you to stop arcane damage, prevent damage, make a lightning flow is all consideration for Acilio. I won't name all of them because there's a lot of them, but you can always consider some of these. There's an interesting like subgame where you can start boarding in these like blue 0 blocks that make a lightning flow that technically help your Acilio matchup if they're on mono arcane. But if they start hitting you with physical and you draw too many of those cards, it can be pretty punishing. So I think you should board in at least some of these, but I might not go like overkill on it, especially like the weaker ones. But some of the premium ones are Calm Veil of Volthaven. This is a 2 cost red. It says prevent the next 3 damage that would be dealt to you this turn. The first time you prevent damage this way, create a lightning flow. Notably, this doesn't care about the source. It can prevent multiple sources or can stop like a ping of arcane, a break point, and then a Scorpio Comet Tail. And you also get a lightning flow out of the deal. This is really good against Acilio. Probably wouldn't play it against Aurora just by what I just described, but it's serviceable. You could play it. It's just mostly an anti-Acilio card.
Okay, okay. That's good to know. Because the rate on this card seems terrible, right? You're getting it's a 2 card 3 block, and lightning flow. So if we even count the lightning flow as a point, then it's 4. So it's a 2 card
Yeah.
4. You're locked into a 2 card 4. Ugh, that does
Yeah.
not sound good.
And it can be like a seeker's outlet, but then like even then, like 2 card 5 that lets you spend your seekers is like whatever. But if you're stopping arcane that you can't stop otherwise, is actually one of the better ways to stop arcane damage and feels quite impactful into Acilio. So I quite like this card. I would always set it aside if you have it, but I wouldn't play it in any of the other matchups. Other ones to mention is Spellbane Aegis. This is a ward. This is an Arcane Barrier X card that is a blue. Arcane Barrier X is really flexible and very powerful, and just probably always worth sideboarding in as a blue against Acilio. It gets destroyed at the start of your turn, so you can only use it on that turn. Although sometimes you can play it on your turn, stop like a ping effect, and then on their turn they try to play something, and you can potentially AB into it again. So that is worth mentioning. It's like not the most card efficient because you have to spend a whole card to get the AB, but I think it being a blue helps make up for that.
Okay.
And
I guess one more card I kind of wanted to ask about before we move on would be Brush Off. So this is a reprint from, I think it was Outsiders, and how good was Brush Off? Because Brush Off technically works on anything, right? So like we could play this into like Aurora, and it could be played into Ziggy, but with the big caveat of that, if it's not preventing enough damage from that source, it doesn't prevent anything. So did you find Brush Off to be playable or even like an include in any of your decks?
you could play it main deck in Acilio, but I would prefer not to because it's like an instant. You can discard, get a ponder. But I would prefer not to. I mostly like this against Acilio, and mostly if you have like Ward in the case of Ziggy or a bunch of lightning flows, which the Acilio mirror tends to have. You sit on lightning flows a lot to spell void. If you have those, then Brush Off is quite good. Aurora could. Some Auroras do play into a fatigue the Acilio game plan. That's something you can do. And if you're doing that and saving lightning flows / equipment to make sure you can use Brush Off, then it's pretty solid. But I would always make sure that you have extra equipment and lightning flows, because the other thing that can happen is if they have like an instant that deals 1 arcane damage on Starfall, which there's like quite a few instances that do this, and they wait for your Brush Off to resolve, then do an instant, you have to be able to stop that 1 arcane damage as well. Plus, like, make sure that you're preventing all of the damage from the main spell. So it is a good card against Acilio, but you really need to make sure you have enough like other prevention effects or / lightning flows to pair with it to make it reasonable.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, then do you want to move on and talk about each hero more specifically?
So Aurora, she's the one that will come together the most often. She makes the best use of the kind of random lightning attacks. You're basically looking for red attacks. All of the costs are good. The quick strike cards are quite good as well, but even the lightning cards are good, and you kind of want all of them. If you have a 0 cost and you have something that gives go again, you can use it into a Scorpio Comet's Tail, and it's pretty solid math. Even if you're spending a whole card on go again, you usually get like 4 with an on hit, and then 1 and 1 with on hit 1, and those on hits really stack up. You can only stop them so many times. They also just like help make wide turns. Then 1 costs pair with your hero ability, which costs 2. They also pair with other 2 costs. And because you have 1 cost quick strike cards, having a couple 2 cost attacks like Riftbreaker that we talked about is really strong as well. So you kind of want a combination of these. I would say you probably want the most 0s and 1s and only a couple 2 costs. But having a couple 2 costs is really good. And even something like it's a 2 for 5 lightning attack that when you attack, you can destroy a lightning flow and it gets +2. Astro Assault, so it can be a 2 for 7. Even this card is like quite good. Or I saw people playing, there's like a Surging Strike that only gets go again if you destroy a lightning flow. That one's like a little worse, but you can even consider playing this in Aurora and it's okay.
Okay, yeah. I guess when you were saying earlier that lightning flows are kind of worth 1, so it is quite a big cost to be playing some of these cards to destroy your lightning flows, right?
Yeah, especially the Surging Strike. The 2 for 7 is still okay because it's basically a 2 for 6, and 7's just a huge number on offense. I think Aurora is also like kind of, it's weird. You need to have go again, and if you don't have go again, Aurora really falls apart. but you also have cards that give go again. So like as long as you have enough lightning flow slash go agains, you can like kind of afford to like burn some of your lightning flows. It really depends on like the go again economy in your deck.
Okay, so you kind of need to be aware of what's left in your deck and how you construct your deck.
Yeah, exactly. There's also some premium yellows. There's rare one cost quick step cards. These basically count as reds. They're 1 for 3s. They get +1 and 1 arcane if they have go again, and they typically have some kind of on hit. The one that makes the ponder and the one that makes the embodiment of lightning are really good. There's one that puts an instant to the bottom. That one's like you'll always play it, but it's just okay. But those basically count as reds too, for the purposes of like looking how many red threats you have. And some yellow threats are still really good. Usually the ones that deal arcane damage are great. So there's like Stinging Sprite. This is a rare. At red, it's a 0 for 3 that deals 1 arcane when it attacks or blocks. Super good. I would play any color of this. Path of the Same Ends is also similar. It's a 0 for 3 that deals 1 arcane. If it deals arcane damage this way, or if it deals damage this way with a 1 arcane, the attack gets go again, and you can pay a resource to give it go again. The red of this is like a Aurora power card, I think, and even the yellows and blues are very solid. The persistent pings are just really hard to deal with, and you kind of just like overwhelm your opponent with this like 2 and 1, and if they stop it, then you can like pay 1 to give it go again, and they have to figure out if you actually care about paying 1 to give it go again, because sometimes you just, I don't know, you want to pay 1 and then play a 2 cost anyway, so paying the 1 didn't matter, and then you got their lightning flow or you made them pitch a card to stop it. So it's quite an interesting card. It's also really good on small hands, so you send this 2 and 1. If they don't stop the arcane, then you get to swing Scorpio for free.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say the Scorpio part, but yeah, no, it being a lightning card just triggers Scorpio on its own. So all of these cards very strong.
Yep. And basically you want a good density of these to be able to play Aurora. The other thing you want some go again sources. So basically anything that gives go again or embodiment of lightning is solid. You can have some flow generation too, but ideally you have some cards that just give go again. I'll mention Quick Succession is probably the most premium. This is the red one is your next attack gets go again, and your next 3 attacks that have go again get +1 power. The yellow is your next 2 attacks get +1 power, and the blue is your next 1 attack gets +1. I think the yellow and blue are really premium. The red is kind of so-so. It's very hard to go 3 go again wide, but 2 go again wide is pretty easy. You play this, attack with something, activate Aurora, attack with something, Scorpio. You get like 2 damage and an action point. Very solid for a yellow, and just very solid in general, but especially for a yellow. And the blue 1 damage and action point is also like very premium.
I have a question about another card that's very similar to this. Mercurial. How do I say this card? Mercurial Skies. So we see Mercurial Skies. That kind of does the same thing. It gives your next Runeblade or lightning attack go again. But it has this ability of you can destroy your lightning flow to do the red one for 3 damage, 2 damage, 1 damage for the blue. How do you think these cards were better than these Quick Successions, or do you think Quick Successions were just better than the Mercurial Skies?
I think Quick Succession is generally better. Red Mercurial Skies is the maybe exception. The thing is, they can usually stop the damage, but there are spots where Red Mercurial Skies can be really brutal, especially if you pair it with some buffs or you pair it with the gloves. Aurora's gloves are pay 1, target lightning attack action card deals 1 damage, 1 arcane damage to the defending hero. It has to be on the active chain link, notably. And it triggers the on damage effects from all the quick step cards as well, which is quite nasty. So the gloves also work with Mercurial Skies, where you can like, they might be prepared to stop 1 arcane, but then you can potentially send another arcane to make that on hit really annoying. So the gloves are like pretty premium in general, but they work with Mercurial Skies, and the red ones get. I think I would probably always play a red one, but it's especially good with the gloves.
Okay. And then the next card you have here is Thunderous Retort.
This card's great. Yeah, Thunderous Retort is a card that's like really easy to skip over. I think a lot of people missed it when they first were playing the set, so that's why I'm mentioning it. It's not as good as Quick Succession, but it's very solid. It's an aura that says, at the beginning of your action phase, destroy this, and your next attack this turn gets go again. The red one has AB3, yellow AB2, blue one AB1. Notably, if you play the red, you have to AB3. Like you can't AB1 or 2. It's only AB3. So that is notable about the card. I think like mostly the blue of this is really good, but honestly, you can even play the red, especially against Acilio. You can main deck the red if you have to. That's probably more of a draft thing than sealed. Your deck's probably too good in sealed for this, but yeah, this card's really, really great. It's like a very strong turn zero play on either side of the board. It's a great card to arsenal, so you just kind of always have access to go again. And there's other cards that make like embodiments of lightning, like there's Sigil of Lightning. There's another card that can make a flow or a embodiment. But I found the situational AB1 to actually be pretty good. Like sometimes you can play this out, AB1 something, like on your opponent's turn, play this out, AB1 something, pair it with like one of your 2 costs, like maybe like the 2 costs, destroy it, make a flow, prevent 1 damage card or something like this. And it's just like a nice little resource sink as like a bonus on free go again. So I actually found this to be like quite impactful.
Okay, that is interesting. This is a card that, reading through the spoilers when the pre-release are starting, this card did not look good to me. So hearing you say that this card is actually good is a pretty big surprise, actually.
The other thing that is relevant about this card is that because it's an instant, it can turn on Volatile Flexor and Flittering Spike. So if you are playing those cards, which are pretty good cards, you can look at these. Like you don't want like 5 of these to enable those cards. You probably want like 4 to 5 instants. But like if you have like 2 of these, 2 Storm Shards, and like a flow through the blue +1 make a lightning flow, that's probably enough to support like a Flittering Spike and a Volatile Fluxor, and it's some nice upside on this card.
Okay, that is kind of cool. Yeah.
I think Mercurial Skies is like a better standalone card than this. I just wanted to mention it because I think it's really easy to just like breeze by this card, and it's actually like very playable.
Okay, that's good to know. And so you're just saying the blue one is the good one, right? And you wouldn't really want to play the yellows?
I would prefer not to play the yellows. The red one's decent anti-Acilio sideboard.
Then I guess my question with the Aurora would be like, what is your game plan? What are you doing to try and like win games with Aurora? Obviously, other than just playing out all your reds and, running your opponent over.
Yeah, you basically want to do like go agains on your quick strike cards and then maximize Scorpio over and over again. You can like block with extra cards or sometimes go too wide or arsenal. You can play kind of mid rangey. You can also play for these really big go wide turns. I think, especially against decks that want to block you a lot, like Ziggy and sometimes Acilio, finding spots to have a small turn, set up an embodiment, and arsenal a quick step card, and then potentially go like 2, maybe even 3 wide is really big and I think very powerful in Aurora. So I think that sometimes people can just like play out their hands over and over again. She's very good at doing that, but you're very blockable because you're often doing like 4 and 1 and Scorpio Comet's Tail, and Acilio can kind of be like block a card, I take 2, zap you, then I have like 2 cards to do like 5 arcane or something, and it's like you're not really coming out ahead there. So yeah, finding turns to go big is good, but you could also kind of play the smaller mid-rangey plan too.
Okay. So classic Flesh and Blood is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, she's like a little setup-y, I would say. You need to work for the really big go wide turns, but they're really strong. Or if you have like there's like a bunch of 1-for-3 pumps. They're basically all good. They're all in the Runeblade pool. 3 block, 1-for-3 pumps. Yeah, you can also use these to make like essentially wide turns because you're converting more cards. Like you're going a little more tall on one of the attacks, but it's another way to kind of like go for the action point limit.
Okay. Then let's move on and talk about Acilio next. So Acilio is going to be the wizard of the format. It's going to have the most big arcane spells in this format. Do you think Acilio is like the typical wizards from like the other sets that wants to just keep on sending arcane, or is Acilio actually attacking in this set as well?
I think Acilio plays like the mono arcane Verdance or other Acilio, I guess, in Rosetta. That like those mono arcane decks are the closest thing to what I think Acilio wants to be doing in this format. My current understanding of the deck is that I would prefer to only play go again attacks which is basically Electrolyze and Volatile Fluxer, and things that do arcane or instants that support my arcane damage game plan, and basically nothing else. You can also play like the D React. The D React's fine. There's a 0 for 3 D React. If you played an instant, it gets +1. That card's like solid in Acilio if you want to be blocking against like Aurora. For the most part, don't really want attack action cards. The 7 power ones with on hits are not bad because 7 is quite annoying to block, and they often have to give you equipment, which sort of you basically always want them to be taking damage is the way I would think about it. You always want to be chipping them or taxing their equipment or something like this. And if you send 7, you're at least progressing your game plan. So yeah, I would look for that breakpoint of 7, or like 4 go again is also good. But something like attacking with Heaven's Claw for 5 just doesn't do anything. Even Riftbreaker, 2 for 6 on hit to destroy a flow is like a great card. But if your whole turn is send this Riftbreaker, they just block 2 cards and then they do stuff, and you kind of like didn't progress your game plan.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because Acilio, you're trying to get them low enough so your arcane damage at the end of the game will just close the game, even when your opponent has 4 cards in hand. And because you start with like 1 less life, right? You are a 19 life hero in this format. You do start behind, and then if you don't do anything, for example, Aurora gets to swing the Scorpio enough times, like that is just gonna chip you down and kill you.
Yeah, exactly. So, and also like basically every hero can fatigue you, because in sealed at least, because you have access to so much prevention that if they just like board in all their prevention and you're doing some blocking as well, you can just get fatigued by Aurora. So if you just like, it's like weird where the attacks are more efficient, and I think that like early on they were not too bad, but as people, even just like as people started playing like the 2 p.m. or the 5 p.m. sealed format, I think people just started blocking the attacks and it was like not so good. You can play in a Cilio deck that has like lots of attack actions and it's like some go again and stuff, and it's like a little bit better than being like in the middle. But I think it's still worse than being mono arcane. And I think if I was playing a deck like that, I'd rather just play Aurora, because if I have that much density of decent lightning attack actions, like Aurora is probably just a better shell for it.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Have you seen anyone actually do Acilio with attack actions, or like seen people succeed with something like that? Or do you think most people just succeeded with the classic I am the wizard decks?
I know my friend Jimmy tried, but he didn't make day 2. I lost to somebody in draft that had some attack actions, but it was like they had like 3 attack actions. It was like a red Electrolyze, the 3 for 7, which I mentioned already being good, and then they had the Majestic, was it Astral Strike? Yeah, you can play Astral Strike in your Acilio deck. That card's good enough for Acilio, but like,
Oh, okay, yeah. Play your majestic attack action cards. Got it, Yuki. Okay, that makes sense.
but like no. Oh, and Flowshard Elemental. Flowshard Elemental is the other good one because it's 4 discard an instant. It gets go again. You get a lightning flow. It's an extender. If it has go again, it's solid. If it doesn't have go again, it's kind of.
Any specific cards that we need to look out for in Acilio that's like the can't misses, or like is there like any yellow variants of spells that like are good enough?
Yeah, so it's mostly the reds. You can play yellows. Generally, the 1 for 3s are pretty solid, but yeah, the power cards, there's quite a few. There's red Cosmic Suture. This card is incredible. Even the yellow and blue are playable in my opinion, but the red is like, whenever they play the red, it feels unfair. Cosmic Suture says when you play it, it prevents the next 4 damage that would be dealt. Again, it doesn't care about sources, so it can stop pings, breakpoints, Comet's Tail, arcane damage, everything. Can block Ziggy cards without triggering Fracture. So the 4 damage prevention that floats is just really, really strong. It's like even better than 4 most of the time, like in a lot of cases, because of just like turning on hits, on awkward breakpoints and all this. And it also has Starfall. If an instant has been put into your graveyard this turn, deal 1 arcane damage to a target hero. Generally, the easiest way to turn Starfall on this is to activate Acilio, discard it, you get a Ponder, then you prevent 4, deal 1 arcane, and you can tap the staff to deal 2 arcane if you want to, if you weren't planning to use it on your turn, which is really strong. That's like 2 cards, prevent 4, deal 2, it's arcane as well, and you get a Ponder. You do have to spend the lightning flow for it, but it's still like a crazy value play.
Yeah, okay. So 2 card 6, turn your lightning flow into a ponder token. Yeah, that sounds like a good deal.
And you're like stopping arcane or breakpoints or other stuff as well.
Okay, okay. Solid, solid.
It's like this card like always feels unfair to me when they play it. I'm just like, oh my god, it's so unfair.
Okay, okay.
Some other premium red instants are Red Flashbolt. This is 2 for 3 arcane as an instant. This doesn't sound good, but it turns on the staff and it also turns on Starfall, which often ends up making it much better than it seems. And you have a lot of like, you have multiple 1 cost Starfall cards, so it pairs really well with Red Meteoric Impact, which is a 1 for 3 Starfall that deals 5 instead. So if you Flashbolt and Meteoric Impact, you do 3 arcane, you turn on Meteoric Impact and the staff, you tap the staff, you give Meteoric Impact +1, and then it comes in for 6 arcane. So you do 3 card 9 arcane. And 9 arcane is just so much arcane damage.
Yeah, that sounds like you would lose games. Just yeah, your opponent does that, you're losing games.
Yep. And it also works with the 1 for 4 Starfall, make a lightning surge, which is basically also 1 for 5. It's just one of them is on defensive value. So yeah, great card with those. Core Reaction is a similar card. It is a 2 cost instant aura, and at the start of your turn, you break it, deal 4 arcane on the red, 3 arcane on the yellow. And of course, when it breaks at the start of your turn, it will turn on your weapon for that turn. So this one's really good to Acilio. Get a ponder, go to your turn, turns on the staff, play a spell. Or you can just play it with like a 1 cost spell as well if you have another instant that can go to the graveyard. So yeah, Core Reaction is also like similarly good to the Red Flashbolt.
This card is like, because all these like instants are, they're instants, so they basically have go again too, right? So like it's kind of how you can think about these cards.
Yeah, it has go again, and then the real value is in turning on Starfall and Volzar on your other cards, which it just like kind of all adds up. You basically need good instants to turn on these Starfall effects and use Acilio's hero ability. So you want ones that translate to value, and these are like the most premium ones. There's other ones you can play, but these are definitely like the best of the bunch. The spells you want to look for, there's a rare Return to Mindfire. It is a 2 for 5. You can tap your hero to make a ponder. This card is so crazy. It's just good. Like you don't need anything to go with it. It's just good. 2 for 5, tap your hero, make a ponder. So good.
Is this a rare or?
Yeah, it's a rare wizard card. Notably, it blocks 2. You just always play it. You're always resolving this card, so it doesn't really matter that it blocks 2.
Oh yeah, it's this card. Sorry, I was like looking for this card on February, and I'm like, where is this card that you're talking about? I see. It's under the wizard card. It's rare. Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, there is no yellow or the blue version of this card.
No. And I guess Aether Sling, the 1 for 4, tap your hero, gets go again, also super premium. The 0 cost is whatever. I don't think that you play it, you always play it, but it's not like a power card. Turn to Mindfire and Aether Sling are power cards.
Sure. And the 0 cost one, for just as reference, if it deals damage, you tap your hero and deals 1 more damage to any target. So yeah, it's a 0 for 4.
Yeah, I think the comparison is like there's a 0 for 3 that has Starfall, make it a 0 for 4, and it blocks for 3, and like that's a common. I think that card's just like better. There's also Enyon Surge, which is a 0 for 3 that blocks 3. You can tap your hero, make a lightning flow, which is like kind of the same card as this, except it's like 1 more on offense versus 1 more on defense. So yeah, I think when you compare Nucleus Aetherbolt to like the other Lightning Wizard Zaps, it's like it's kind of not really that much better, and it or like even necessarily better, and it blocks for 2 instead of 3. So I don't know. You probably always play it because I think you play all your red arcane spells, but it's like not a reason to be a Acilio.
Okay, okay, good to know.
Meteoric Impact, red and blue, super good. We talked about that. That's the 1 for 3, gets +2 if you Starfall. And red Arc Ramp. It's a 0 for 3. You can play a 0 cost Amp 3, and you can pay a what are they called, lightning flow to give it go again. Just going super tall on the arcane damage is really strong.
Is there a way to play Arc Ramp without giving it go again?
You could pair with an instant, like you could pair with like Flashbolt or something, or no, not Core Reaction. Core Reaction started the turn.
Yeah, I was just thinking that there isn't that many instances that actually just like deal arcane on their own, right?
No, typically not. You usually want to pair our crab with like a zero cost zap that is like pretty strong, or like a turn to mindfire. It's crazy. 8 arcane, tap your hero, make a ponder.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay.
So yeah, the main thing to look for in Acilio are these power cards. You want some instants that convert directly to value. We talked about some of the most premium ones, um, but there's also a few other ones. There's red, like with the whole Constella series is decent. I think the one that makes the ponder is the worst. They all have Starfall deal 1 arcane. And then there's one that makes a ponder, one that makes a lightning flow, and one that untaps a staff you control. They all cost 0 and they're all yellows. These are pretty solid. I play like 2 to 3 copies of these. The ponder is definitely the most awkward of the bunch. But they're decent. They're definitely worse than the other instance that we talked about, but they're okay.
I guess my last question with Acilio would be like, Acilio has his it's like specialization arm piece, right? The common arm piece for the lightning wizard equipment. Is this card pretty good, like Constella Waves? What it does is it's instant. You tap your hero, you destroy it, and it gives amp 1. Do you think this is actually just like one value better than basically the generic arm pieces in the set, or do you think like a generic arm piece is just as good or even maybe better?
I think having to tap your hero for this is a pretty real cost. I think this is actively good against Ziggy and is decent against Acilio because you just want to like push as much arcane as fast as possible. Into Aurora, I was actually just boarding in another prevention effect to stop Scorpio instead, though. I think it's because if you stop Scorpio, it's worth 2.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So not a premium like arm piece then, right? For Celio?
No, no, it's fine. Like if you have it, you probably play it sometimes, but I would play Acilio. If you have a good Acilio deck, I would play it without the arm piece, and I wouldn't be like, oh, I have the arm piece, I have to play Acilio. It's fine.
That's kind of what I want to ask.
Maybe 2 last quick shoutouts for cards in Acilio. There's Red Chromatic Refinement. This is kind of a sleeper card that is really, really good. It is a red instant aura. Start of your turn, you destroy it, and the next red card that you play this turn costs 1 less to play. And if it would deal damage, it deals that much +1. So notably, this turns on Starfall, and you can use it to play a 1 cost spell, and it will also turn on the staff. So it effectively will kind of like amp 2 and pay for the card. So if you play Meteoric Rise or the 1 for 4 that makes a lightning flow, this is basically like a 2 card 7 that's like all arcane. It is really, really good. Plus, this is like an instant. You can Acilio it, make a ponder, etc. So yeah, Chromatic Refinement, if you have 1 cost, is really impressive. I play like 1 to 2 of them every time.
Okay, that makes sense. You don't want to stack these, right? Like you don't want to play like 2 chromatic refinements on 1 turn.
Probably not, unless you have like a turn to Mindfire. Then that would be pretty good.
Okay, okay.
And Arc Ramp eats this effect. It eats the cost reduction and the plus power. So don't line up Chromatic Refinement plus Arc Ramp plus spell. That doesn't work. I tried to do this in the calling and it was really bad.
Sorry, the arc ramp is the amp 3 card. It doesn't do arcane damage though.
Yeah, but this doesn't care. It just cares about the next red card that you play this turn. So it tries to apply the effects to Arc Ramp. It doesn't do anything because Arc Ramp costs 0 and it doesn't deal damage. But it does consume the effect.
Oh, you're right. It says the first time that card would deal damage this turn, instead it deals that much +1. So yeah, it is looking for specifically that next red card you play. Okay,
Yep.
that is good to know. And yeah, just don't play yourself into that, I guess.
Yep. Last thing to look for: tap Lessons of the Past. 1 for 4, tap your hero. Oh, sorry, 1 4. If it hits, tap your hero. You can put an instant on the bottom of your deck from your graveyard. You can play this in all colors. If you have any of the Flashbolt or the core reactions that deal a bunch of arcane, this is really, really strong anti-fatigue because if it hits, you get to put more arcane damage back into your deck. So yeah, especially into like Ziggy, I would play every tap Lessons of the Past that I have if I have these Flashbolts and core reactions because it's very strong like deck damage.
Okay, that makes sense. Wait, sorry, did this card have to hit?
Mm-hmm. Has to hit. But arcane damage always takes cards to stop, so just you keep doing arcane damage, it'll eventually start hitting. So I think, yeah, I think having tap Lessons of the Past is pretty strong. Even recurring like one instant throughout the whole course of the game is like pretty meaningful in the Ziggy matchup.
Okay, that makes sense. Then let's move on and talk about the most interesting, the most understand like it's not understood the most, I think, is Ziggy, right? Like no one really knows what Ziggy is trying to do yet. It is the illusionist of the set, and always illusionist takes the most amount of time for someone to figure out. We saw from the win rate that Ziggy's not bad, even in limited. So what is Ziggy trying to do, at least in this sealed format?
Ziggy's like kind of a weird mix of Guardian, Wizard, and Illusionist. Wizard because of the weapon, it almost feels like Icelander, where you start like chipping them and you have a very strong end game where you play on both sides of the turn to close. Guardian because you typically block well and some of your auras have ward and you often demand cards from them, so you kind of like force these small turn games. And then Illusionist because of the board state stuff. It's a very unique style of deck that really kind of blends all three of these heroes. um I think to make Ziggy work, you want a few things. The first thing to look for are the rare 2-cost fracture attacks. They're kind of all good. The one that on fracture gains a life and the one that on fracture deals an arcane are probably the best of the bunch. But honestly, these are all really good. Basically, the rare fractures are like super, super strong. The embodiment of lightning one also really good. Um, these are kind of like, if I start seeing multiple of these, it's like a one of the things you're looking for to be Ziggy, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah. The two cost fragment rares, they're not cycles, right? Except for the one that deals one arcane damage. All of them are just like standalone 2 for 7s.
And the one that deals arcane damage is pretty good. You can play it in all colors, honestly, just because it chips damage. I think a really important concept in Ziggy is you need to have a way to chip through damage. There's kind of two main methods. One is with cards like Polaris Pulse Ray and just like activating Aphrodite. And the other one is by using instants. So there's the 1 for 3 like lightning instant, like the +3, like the, gosh, what is it called?
Oh, the Storm Star.
Storm Shard. Yeah. So Storm Shard is probably your best option for this. I would love to see Storm Shard and Ziggy. You can also play Auric Shards. Auric Shards is a card that is, I think people identify this as a key Ziggy card, but the more I play, the lower on this card I get, and I suspect that it is only just okay.
What is Auric Shards?
This is a 1-cost instant for +1, and it has ward 1. And then if it enters with a hollow counter, it gives +4 instead. So the main play pattern is you play a 0-cost fracture, let's say, they block a card, or maybe they don't block a card. And then you play Auric Shards, give it +1, activate Ziggy, give it +4, and you have a ward 1. This is kind of like a 2-card 6 because you get the ward 1, but you also give up a lightning flow. So it's more like a 2-card 5. The good part about this is that it chunks them, but it's a little bit inefficient and it's very hard to fit the Aphrodite activation in, and it only plays on big hands as well. So I think it has a lot of drawbacks.
Okay, so it is one of those like combat tricks or like just like a pump that does a lot of damage, but it doesn't actually fit with the cost curve of any of these cards then, right?
Yeah, and so I think you can play Auric Shards, but I think the other way to play this deck is with Cosmic Space Dust, which is a rare. This is like maybe one of the biggest reasons to be Ziggy in addition to the other rares that we talked about. It is also a 1-cost instant aura, and it has ward 1, but if you have a hollow counter on it, it has ward 4 instead. And when it leaves the arena, it deals 1 arcane. So this is the same math. You block 4 damage and you deal 2 arcane damage. 1 when you flicker it for the hollow counter, and then 1 when they destroy it. The major advantage that Cosmic Space Dust has is if you play a 2-cost fracture, you can play out Cosmic Space Dust with the 1 floating, and then you can flicker it on your opponent's turn to get the 6 value, to get basically you spend a card on it to pitch, and you also get the Aphrodite activation, which is huge because then you get you're spending a lightning flow still, but you get 8 points. I guess -1 because the lightning flow. So getting that extra Aphrodite activation is really, really big, and it's much easier to do because you can do like 2 cost plus this. If you try to do this with auric shards, you have to protect the auric shards, which is hard. It's not easy to protect auric shards. It's a weird one.
Okay, I see, I see. So this is a rare, right?
This is a rare. I think maybe all the colors are playable. Red is like great. Yellow is still very good, and I probably would play the blue.
Okay, okay. And what scales off the color? Is it just the ward on X?
Yeah, it's ward 4, 3, or 2 with a hollow counter.
How do these games end up going with Ziggy? Because like a lot of his attacks ends up having fragment, right? So do these games go on for like a very, very long time? Because your opponent won't lose that quickly if they don't want to, right?
Yeah, you usually go close to fatigue. You can get fatigued if you're not careful. I think you need to make sure that you're getting enough efficient Aphrodite activations to not get fatigued. It's kind of like up to you to find spots to activate your weapon. And I believe this is why Corrosive Space Dust is so important. You can also do the same play pattern with Hollow Shield. It's basically the same card. It's 1 cost ward X, where X is 4 if it has a hollow counter. Otherwise, X is 1 at red, and then it's 3 and 2 for yellow and blue. You only want the reds for Hollow Shield, really. And basically, you're missing out on the arcane when it leaves. You're missing out on 2 arcane. It's 2 whole points worse. But Hollow Shield is actually still pretty solid because if you do the same thing, play it with a 2 cost, then flicker it and get Aphrodite, you're kind of getting a 2 card 6. Still costs a lightning flow, but it doesn't use your action point. And this is actually a really good deck value if you stop 4 damage, deal 2. So Hollow Shield is like definitely worse than Corrosive Space Dust, but I think it might be comparable to Auric Shards or maybe better.
Okay, okay, interesting, interesting. Yeah, I guess the cost of you needing to play another card with Orc Shard is pretty big.
Yeah, you just usually miss the weapon activation unless you have a whole extra card, or you can play it with a 2 cost, but if they block 2 cards on the 2 cost and the Oryx shards just got stuck and you held all these cards to make this play and then this card's stuck in your hand, then it's really awkward. And it's usually pretty face up when you want to Oryx shards. So I've been like much more impressed with these other instances instead. I think these are what you want to be doing with Ziggy. And yeah, you're basically like a deck value deck, and you probably want some like blue instants that you can then flicker and activate Aphrodite in the end game. There's like some blue instant ward 1 auras. They are honestly all good. There's one that gains a life on enter. There's one that gives an attack +1, and there's one that gives an attack go again. Yeah, they're all solid. You don't want too many of them because they kind of block one, but having a few is pretty important.
I guess my next question would be like, how often do people activate Aphrodite in a game? Like, does these Ziggy players activate Aphrodite like 3 or 4, maybe 5 times in a game, or do you think it's more like you get shot twice by Aphrodite?
Yeah, I think it's like 3 to 5. Kind of depends how grindy the game goes. The grindier the game, the more you want to activate Aphrodite.
And then, is there any other ways to activate Aphrodite other than destroying a lightning flow, or is that the only way to activate Aphrodite in this format, or at least the more common ways?
This is the most common way. There's Blink of an Eye, which when it fragments lets you flicker, and there's also, but it's also a rare, and it puts a hollow counter on, so you can activate Aphrodite when you flicker. And there's also Flicker Reality. When this leaves the arena, you may banish another lightning aura permanent you control with no hollow counters, then return it with a hollow counter. It's basically Ziggy's hero ability. It has ward 1. So there are other ways to do this, but they're both, yeah, there aren't very many, and they're rares. Like they're high rarity.
Okay, that makes sense. And then we kind of asked this question with all the heroes so far. Fingers of Fragmentation. This is the arm piece for Illusionist. So this is Ziggy's like specialization arm piece essentially. So what this card does is instant you pay 2 and destroy it, and it says target attack action card that has fragmented gets +2. So if your opponent blocks a card with fragment, then you can activate this. Do you think this card was powerful, or do you think this is like not that great as you're spending 2 resources for 2 powers?
It's kind of often just okay because it has the same problem as Auric Shards, where like they can sometimes tell if you're holding this up, and if they overblock and it's a card you don't want, then it's awkward. It's also, yeah, I found this to be just okay. Like, also doesn't really pair with your two costs super well. It's like fine, not great. You probably play it if you have it. It's a pretty good finisher. There's a rare that has Dominate and Fragment. That's a 3 cost, and that card in any pitch with this is a pretty good like game closer, or at least get them low enough that Aphrodite will take over the game. Because once they're at like 3-ish, you go like Aphrodite, your turn, Aphrodite, or Aphrodite end of my turn, Aphrodite on your turn. It really takes over the game at a certain point. Um, Especially as they're getting low on cards in deck and things like this, which is kind of what Ziggy's trying to do. So you're kind of just trying to get them low enough that your weapon will take over. And because of that, I think having some lightning flow generation is really, really, really important in this hero. You need it. There's like a 1 cost ward 2. When it leaves, make a lightning flow. That card's great. The instant 1 cost make 2 lightning flows is really good. There's a 0 for 5 fragment, and if it fragments, makes a lightning flow. This card is called Shattering Flow Tide. I think this card is extremely premium in all the colors because either way, it advances your game plan. If you attack with this and they block it, you get a lightning flow, which gives you more weapon activations. And if they don't block it and they just take damage, you're lowering their life total, which is what you want. So this is like one of the best ways to lower their life total. And yeah, the 0 for 4 is good. Even the blue, it's a blue 0 for 3 if they don't block it. And if they do block it, it's kind of like a 0 for 4 because you got a lightning flow and a card from them. So the blue 0 cost fragments in general are actually pretty good.
Okay. That's good. That's good to know actually. Shattering Flow Tide, the 0 cost. Yeah, I guess you are right. If they don't block it, they take 3 damage, which is a good rate on a card. And if they do block it, they did trade 1 card for this, and you get a lightning flow. So you're just like kind of up a card anyway, or up a flow state, a lightning flow token anyways.
Yeah, which is kind of like a 0 for 4, and it's a blue, which is, yeah, this card is kind of crazy, honestly. I think all the colors of this card are really impressive. The dualities are also good for Ziggy, for chipping them, getting lightning flows, activate your weapon. Yeah, you need basically enough weapon activations. And then you want to make sure, if you are playing like Hollow Shields and Cosmic Space Dust, you have to make sure you have flows for those, because if they're Ward 1s, if they're red 1 cost Ward 1s, they are not playable cards.
That makes sense. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on Ziggy? I feel like Ziggy feels or like looks kind of complicated, but the way that you explained it makes it sound pretty simple actually.
I think it's like a bit of a weird hero to grasp, but as you start to get some of the play patterns, it makes more sense. I think to make a Ziggy deck really good, you need ways to spend large hands. This might mean instant speed auras is a great way. The like blue Ward 1, give an attack, go again is a good way. If you have the boots that make an embodiment, that's a great way. You basically need something so that they block your fragment, then you can still convert. And another big point is you really want to be conservative with your lightning flows in Ziggy because you have these wards. And if you're playing into this play pattern of like 2 cost play a Ward 1, if they do arcane damage instant speed, like this is mostly relevant for Ziggy or Acilio, they can Aphrodite you, or they can do one of the Starfall instants that deal 1 arcane. If you lose your ward, it's like a huge problem. So you want to have like lightning flows and potentially like the 0 cost tap equipment to protect your Hollow Shield or your Cosmic Space Dust so you can get to your turn and then flicker them with Ziggy's ability. So it's really important that you are saving your flows to be able to protect this. Even if you get to your turn with the Ward 4 against Aurora, if they do 1 and 4, you need to be able to stop the 1 to be able to like get the Ward 4 value. So yeah, that would be like a big tip for Ziggy. I think the lightning flow management in this hero is the most specific and maybe the most punishing. Aurora can also be punishing, but I think her having go again cards just kind of like bails you out on it. But for Ziggy, like if you mismanage your flows and you lose a Ward 4, it's like kind of game losing, I think.
Okay, so it is just like a little bit more punishing with the yeah, with your play patterns and your game plan. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. The last thing I would say about Ziggy is that Fragment kind of sucks. Outside of the rare fragment cards, because you get stuff when they fragment, those ones are great, and the one that makes a lightning flow, that one's also great. Your other fragment cards, the duality is also okay because you can discard it, but you don't really want to attack with it. Um, you often are actually kind of happy playing some of the lightning attacks instead. Like consider Rift Breaker 2 for 6, make a lightning flow if it hits. You can still do the same pattern with the 1 cost ward auras, like Hollow Shield, for example, and Rift Breaker. And this is just like better than most of your fragment cards because it's, yeah, if they don't block it, it's 6. They take a lightning flow. That's like the 2 cost wards, and they have to give you 2 3 blocks. They can't give you like 2 blocks to get value. So I think these are actually mostly just better. Same thing for like Flowing Storm Strike, Meteoric Rise, Volatile Impact, all of those premium rares we talked about. Even the Flittering Spike, the 1 cost 4 power 3 block that gets +2 if you played an instant, and you get a lightning flow on hit. All of these cards are quite good in Ziggy, and yeah, I would look to play some of these. I think that Ziggy can get a lot of benefit out of these, and I think having too much fragment can kind of be a downside.
Okay, okay, that is interesting. I guess you were saying like Auroric Shards wasn't that impressive for you, and I guess the more cards, more reds that you're playing that doesn't have fragment makes Auroric Shards even worse in these scenarios, right?
Yeah, I guess I should say like I don't think Auric Shards is like don't play it. I think you can still play an Auric Shards deck, and if you have that, you want fragments. The fragment that makes a resource, the 0 cost 0 for 5 fragment that makes a resource of fragments is quite good with Auric Shards because then you get the weapon activation if they block, and it's kind of always like a 2 card. No, it's a 3 card 8. It's so mediocre. Well, no, it's more than that. You get 8 plus 2, 10 plus 1. So you get a 3 card 11 that takes a flow. Yeah, it's still kind of mediocre. I don't know. You can play Auric Shards. I don't want to say don't play it, but yeah, these other cards are actually also highly substitutable, and I might play like 1 to 2 Auric Shards. You want to make sure you have enough red fragments if you're going to play Auric Shards. But yeah, I would be pretty happy playing Corrosive Space Dust and Hollow Shields, and maybe just playing those even.
Okay, okay, interesting. That's kind of everything that we had in our notes. I think this is enough information to kind of do well at your pre-release. Obviously, this is gonna be a pre-release, so help all of your friends out if you are listening to this before the pre-release, and share this information with people so people can get the best experience for their pre-release. Yeah, I'm excited for Omens, and man, I am so excited for we finally get to draft again. It's been way too long since our last draft format.
Yeah, when I went to do drafts, I was like, oh, I'm kind of rusty. I haven't drafted in a while. Like just like specifically doing like the called draft and then trying to like look at class breakdown and what's gonna wheel and blah 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 blah. What cards am I sending was like I was kind of running out of time to do all the things I usually do because I was just not used to doing all of them. So yeah, it's just been like so long since we drafted. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So after the pre-release, we have is it nationals next that we get to draft in like the called draft format?
Yeah. There's nationals. I believe U.S. Nats is 2 drafts, and I think all the other Nats are 1 drafts. Maybe there's some 0 drafts. But I heard Japan's 1 draft this time. I know there was 0 draft last year, so I think they're all 1 draft. Most of them are 1 draft at least.
Yeah, I think if they have enough people, there'll be one draft.
So yeah, we'll have that. And I guess our goal will be to help everybody get ready for drafts. So we'll be starting our How to Draft series soon. Probably not next week because we won't have time to draft before then.
Yeah, well, I don't think we'll have enough drafts by next week, but the week after we should have some information. So we'll try and get some practice in, and we'll try and get some information out, and hopefully before your Nats, we can get some information into your brains.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of what we talked about in this pre-release episode for each of the heroes does translate to draft, but I think you need to be a little bit more flexible in terms of which cards you're combining and if you're drafting the instant cards, draft instants that go with them, or don't draft the instant cards. yeah, there's kind of multiple ways to go, and it feels like most of the cards can be good, but you need the right surrounding pieces to go with them in order for them to really shine. And just kind of combining, just like you can't really just play like a good stuff lightning deck. I don't think that really exists. I think you need lightning cards that pair with your class cards is kind of what you're looking for in this set, which I think is why we went into a little more detail. Like often the hero talk for each one in the pre-release episode is like a little less specific, but for this one I kind of felt like they're hard to talk about unless you get a little specific, because they all kind of want certain things.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's wrap it up here. It's getting kind of long, so we can try and get this out before the pre-releases start. Hopefully this will be out maybe today, tomorrow, so the 26th, 27th. Yeah, from what I can say, good luck on your pre-releases. Anything do you want to say before we close this episode out, Yuki?
Nope, just hope you enjoy the set. It's a lot of fun. I think that for your nationals, look to practice draft a lot. I definitely felt like I was still learning so much about the format as I was playing. So I think there'll be an interesting evolution as people continue to play the format, and I'm pretty excited to see what that looks like. But yeah, that's it. Good luck, everybody. Hope you have fun at your pre-releases and your upcoming drafts. If you want to find us, talk to us about the set, you can find us on social media. We are at Ueda J on Twitter, and I'm at Yuki Lee Bender on Twitter or on Blue Sky. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/onthebobble, and all the tiers get access to the Patreon Discord. So if you want to submit questions, you can do that. I'm also going to go back to posting draft decks with small write-ups, and often people in the past were posting like their 3.0 draft decks and sharing them and talking about them. So it's a good online community for limited, if that's something that you're looking to level up at. And yeah, it'll be good to have that part of the Discord back. It's been a little bit quieter in the Discord without the limited discussion going on. And I'm really excited to kind of work on this format, learn from everybody in the Discord, and just help each other all improve. So if that sounds interesting to you, check out our Discord.